Tom Anderson, and I taught 32 years at a small rural district in northern Illinois, and then became familiar with the net math at the U of I. And I looked back, and it was in the spring of 1995. Okay, so in the 95, 96 school year, we did that. And then I retired from there 6 years later. But by then, I had met Tony, and I was working with MathTeacherLink, okay, and have worked with it.
You're very hard. And I'm Tony Peressini, and I'm from the U of I here, and I was involved with MathTeacherLink from the beginning, and looking forward to talking to folks about anything you want to know about, at least that I can answer about the site and what we have hopes for. So, I had intended to write these PowerPoint, and I guess I could have if I knew PowerPoint better, but I wanted to have the black type on top show up and then the other one put in when I and I guess I can do that, but not in my level of competence. So anyway, we start off with these questions. Why was MTL developed? How has MTL changed? And what is the future of MTL? So these questions have changed over my career with the whole thing here, with the personal development needs of math teachers in the 9 to 14 grade levels. So Tom, do you want to move it ahead? So the first thing is, why was MTL developed? What we really wanted to do was, we had a number of schools at the beginning involved with distance education with Jerry Yule's program here at the U of I, and when it first started, basically the students sent in discs back and forth, and so it was kind of a mail order thing for a while. And the teachers, of course, they were coordinators, but basically the initial meaning of that was that they were kind of facilitating the students taking C&M. And
can I ask a question?
Sure.
What year is this?
This is about 1995 or so. I think that's right, 1995. And
these are calculus and mathematica modules that are being mailed back and forth.
Yes, and of course that had all sorts of problems of its own, and the mailing. It became very clear very early, I think, to Jerry that he had to do something to speed that process up. And so I think as soon as it was possible to get on the internet, I think we were, and then but along with that, we had no way. It was difficult to communicate because you had to do it basically by phone if you wanted to get some help or something of that sort. So it was not too satisfactory in that way. But that was really the start. Was to a lot of the teachers that we met were, first of all, the fact that they got NetMath into their schools was an indication that they were interested in providing calculus and mathematica for some of their students. The frustrating thing for them, I think, at the beginning was the fact that they were interested in the course themselves and wanted to know, how could I teach this course? And so basically that's what we started off with, was trying to see about getting, first of all, calculus and mathematica, or something related to calculus and mathematica, for teachers. So that was one of our first modules, was calculus and mathematica for teachers. And it was intended to provide the kind of background, much like a module that we would have to introduce them to C&M. So and that started things going. Then we had to deal. Next thing that came up was we need to use the internet if we want to do this efficiently. And so when Jerry got the internet working for him, then we wanted to make sure that we put together teacher modules that were taking advantage of that. So that's the way it started. Okay, and let's go on to the next one, Tom. So for initial use, it was professional development from 1997 to 2005. That's what I would say we had rapid growth in the MTL course offerings and enrollment. So things, it wasn't huge, but basically we had quite a lot of interest in it. And part of it was, the reason at that time is that the whole country was getting involved with two things. One was professional development for teachers. All sorts of reports came out that indicated that we needed to do a better job of preparing teachers to teach courses, and that if we had better teachers, we would probably have there'd be better courses for students at the same time. So that was the thing. There was state funding, federal funding, both available for MTL course development and workshops. And the workshops were a good way to do development at that time, because you could get the students all there at one that you're interested in reaching in one place. They could work on a module there. They could, in fact, we tried to make the modules short enough so that you could do a module in about 15 to 20 hours of work time. And so it was much more shorter than a course. And so we call them course modules, and that's where all that happened. Any questions on that? Okay.
Was the content at this time was more than just mathematics?
No, it started off, I think, with the calculus and mathematica, and then for teachers, and then we had an internet browsing course, just things that are on the internet that you might use if you're a teacher. And there was a lot of stuff at that point, a lot of really good stuff that since has become either it's disappeared or it's now part of, you have to pay for whatever you're getting in those things. So it was a good time, very freewheeling. Okay, I think we can go on. So so 1997, that first period, we had 3 professional development courses, and they each took about 15 to 25 hours to do in a workshop, and that was just ideal for that. So, okay, Tom. So now what came of all this is we soon, before we knew it, the Nctm's standards came out, and there was state and federal grants for professional development. It was the golden age of doing that kind of internet stuff. And we had, so we got some grants to do workshops in specific locations, and they ranged all the way from southern Illinois up to the Chicago area and the suburbs, and particularly the suburbs were attractive places to go, and so on. So that was when all that happened. Any questions about that? So the 16 modules I don't know if we have a slide on that, Tom, but
I think that might be.
Yeah.
I don't know that we.
No, we don't.
Okay.
But at any rate, we had there were.
I have the brochures.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can figure out how to do that.
Yeah, but it was a time when you could really move on things here, and
We did, one of the grants, we did workshops out around the state at community colleges. We kind of partnered with them, and I ended up having a copy of the brochure that we had sent out. And that has a listing of the 16 modules that we had at the time.
yeah. So
Tony?
yes.
Did you develop the modules yourself, or did you have help from other?
Well, when we started developing, I put together something initially, and I had the help of, I no longer can think of his name right now, but there were several people that helped with the module development, and some of the modules were actually written by people John Dossie actually had a large role in doing some of that early stuff, and so it came about in that way, yeah. Okay, now what's happened since then, say a slow decline of MTL as PD support declines at the local, state, and level. So Tom really is the main guy. He's always had the permissions to do the module maintenance and the sort of thing that you need to do. And for the same reason, my role decreased because I got involved in 2 other projects. One was the Chicago project, and where I did the pre-calculus and discrete mathematics, the last book in the series that they had, and then also in the writing of the book Mathematics for High School Teachers. Both of those things occupied quite a bit of my time because they took place over a long, several years of work. And but Tom, first of all, he's very good at a lot of things, and one of them is one character that I love about Tom. He works like a dog. He's a hard worker, and he can do things with technology that I can't do. And he also is really good about. He kept all these our modules were going through some rough times because of the fact that the technology was changing. The kinds of programs you had to run technology were changing, and so it was a kind of a tough time, but I'm always be grateful that he bailed me out there. But I really enjoyed the work with those 2 books too, and even though they're not bestsellers by any means, I'm still very happy when I open either one of them and look at it. And fortunately, they were well proofread, I hope, so I didn't have a whole lot of mistakes in it, but enough to get by. Okay, I think that's about it now. And now here is interesting. This is kind of a summary of professional development results. The total number of MTL modules completed was 1,104, and the average number of modules per teacher was about 1.4. So at least typically most teachers would take at least 2 of these, or a lot of them would, and so it brought the numbers up to that. So it was, yes.
I took 8.
Yeah, you're one of those.
A number of people who did that, having 5, 6, 7. Okay, that was not terribly uncommon.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've always been an outlier.
But for
Best
instance,
math
when,
teacher I've ever.
Yes, I know.
when Sketchpad came out,
Yes.
that's where I went. When Fathom came out,
Yeah.
HTML,
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I needed was that quarter credit, whatever it is you gave me, and
Yeah.
those 15 or 20 hours, and I was good to go.
Yeah.
So.
So it's good. And I think the workshop setting was sometimes what happens with these workshops is that the teachers would do the work they needed for the workshop, but it was kind of tough when you go back to school and all the cares that you have when you go back there and the things that you need to do, that it's hard to get them to continue that on their own. And I think that was that part of the period when in the tail end where you had to decline was due to the fact that you didn't get any credit from your school, you didn't get any credit from the state, you didn't get any credit for anything, and in fact all it did was make more work for you, and that's basically the state of that situation now.
I mean, I could have been part of the problem because if the teachers at Central needed help with Sketchpad, they didn't go to you, they came to me.
Yeah.
So I didn't think about that.
Yeah. No, it's in the Sketchpad module. Actually, both the introduction and some of the modules that have been built on that were they have remained pretty popular with people. So they take them and use them. And the calculator modules that mainly Tom wrote those after the first try that I had at some of those. And he's maintained them all through that and kept them up to date. And I still think they're a good resource to have. I don't know if we succeed in MSTE to take our modules and use them, then I think that's one thing we will look forward to there, that to keep them, as many of them as can be maintained will be maintained. So, any other questions?
Well, I jotted a few notes
Yes.
too, and Tony put together the slides here, and I didn't want to interrupt his flow, okay? So I'll make a few comments now,
Sure.
okay?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to go back and start with the first day I saw Tony, okay? At the very beginning, they would have us come down, the teachers that were going to do the program, they would have us come down for training in the summer. I forget if it was 3 days or something like
Yeah.
that. And I keep a lot of stuff, okay? This is, I found it last night. I wanted to make real sure I knew what year we first joined. This is the original letter from my superintendent signing off that he was going to allow us, okay, to join the
CNM.
You and Deborah, okay, for the college calculus. Our school had no AP courses. We did not teach calculus. Well, no, we did. We did have a calculus course, but it was a high school level calculus course. And that person he had come into the district like 5 years before me, okay, and he was department chair, and he was probably department chair for at least 25 years. And then the state came through with what they called 5+5. They were trying to get rid of older teachers. 5+5 meant we'll pretend you taught 5 years longer than you have for your pension, and we'll pretend you're 5 years older than you really are. So these people had the opportunity to go out at age 50, okay, with basically the full pension they would get if they had worked another 5 years. And at that, I was too young by about a year and a half, okay, on it. And the principal came to me and said, we're going to need somebody to teach this high school calculus course. And he said, you know, we can either hire a new person or I'm offering to let you teach it. Okay, well, I had a master's degree in physics from the University of Illinois, so I've obviously taken some calculus. But the last time I took calculus was in 1966, and this would have been in roughly, I'm going to round it to 96. It had been 30 years, okay? Yeah. And in the mail comes this brochure. I'm sure glad it made it out of the front office, okay, for me, okay? But it was an offer from the University of Illinois saying they had gotten a grant to help inner city Chicago schools and rural Illinois schools offer calculus over the internet, and they would partner with us in doing it, okay? I had agreed to teach the calculus prior to that coming in. And I looked at it when it came in and I said, it's been 30 years since I've taught calculus. I'm not sure I know what changes ought to be made, okay, from the way it was when I taught it, which was probably the way it was taught 100 years ahead of that. And I'm looking at it saying, we have the U of I staff, they specialize in this, okay, and they're offering to help us. I think we ought to take advantage of that, okay, with it. And I got them, I had a hard time convincing my district to do it. The one argument that finally made it, and I might even have it in here, let's see, I won't dig anymore, but basically the final argument that I was able to advance, okay, to the district that got them to do it was, so you're telling us we can't offer what inner city Chicago schools do. Out here, we can't offer what inner city Chicago schools do. They did not know how to respond to that, okay, and they went ahead and then approved doing that. And then I came down that summer for the training, and Deborah and Jerry had gone through most of the mathematics and what the procedures are going to be. Tony comes in, stage right, okay, we've got another grant, okay? We got another grant to help high school teachers learn how to use technology, okay, in teaching math, an NSF grant, okay? And I'm looking at him coming across the stage, and he reminds me of the blacksmith up in northeastern Iowa in the town of 600 that I grew up in, okay? I just looked at, in it. And he had, at that point, I think I took one of the earliest modules, and I'd get done with it, and, he'd be the one grading it. And when I get done, he'd write back and say, do you have changes you'd suggest, okay? You find any corrections or any changes? And I'd write back, okay, I think after we'd done 2 or 3 of those, okay, he said, would you mind helping grade and assisting other teachers, okay? And that was kind of when I became involved more than just as a student, okay, with the program. And a couple years later, I think it was, would you mind being a co-director?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how my involvement came in. Some of the early challenges that we faced is that as long as we were teaching over the internet, the idea was to use the internet for math resources, okay? But what that did is it put links in our pages that we had no control over those other pages. So they would be disappearing on us, okay? And, so if you built them into your course, and I built one into the Fathom that I wrote, and it was State Board of Education's website, Illinois State Board of Education. We were doing data on how schools had performed on the state testing. And I wanted the problem was how predictable is what the school will do next year based on what it had done this year, because we were doing all this professional development was going on. You would think there would be low schools, okay, that would rise up. And so that was one of the questions that we did the statistics on using Fathom on it. And then pretty soon that website goes down, So the next thing I know, students saying, I can't find this piece of data,
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, I had captured it, so I could send them a copy. But we also, even the Fathom was the most extreme. We had one, I think it was maybe either 2 or 3 years ago, a student signs up for Fathom, gets ready to take it, can't find the Fathom software, okay? The link that we had to where you order the Fathom software, not there, okay? Well, they had, Key Class had developed it. They had sold it to McGraw-Hill.
Yeah.
McGraw-Hill dropped it, okay? And so we had to, enroll the person in a different course to refund money at that point. So the whole module was now off, okay, off the limits. Then with the Mathematica, okay, one of the early problems is because the internet was so slow with a 300 baud modem, we would put the content on disks and send that to people, and if they happened to have a faster connection, they could either do it online or they could do it off the disk. So now you had to keep those two in sync, okay? So you make a change in one, you had to redo the disk. So you were always updating to keep 2 copies of something going simultaneously. The other one, I guess, that maybe drew me into this is the U of I was always working on Mac. I was working on a Windows machine. Windows was the only thing we had in our district, okay? So the software doesn't always work the same on one or the other, okay? And so Tony was asking me, tell me what I need to change so it works correctly in Windows. Now, irony of ironies, okay? Now this is almost 20 years ago. When we got ready to do a CD, okay, and I have a CD here, and I sent copy to Tony. I sent a first-class mail, padded envelope, okay, on it, because I wanted him to see it. It was a 10-minute presentation that he did back in 1997, okay, on the internet. I wanted him to see it ahead of this presentation. I did not realize I had it. It had been taped in a studio down here, broadcast over the Illinois satellite system to the community colleges. I'm sitting there in a suit. I never wear a suit, okay, but I had not remembered taping it. And I thought maybe Tony'd be in the same boat. So I rush out to the outfit that can change it from VHS to CD, get it in an envelope on Saturday afternoon, first class postage to Champaign. My email says it arrived, okay, in it. Tony gets ready to play it, and he's describing what he's seeing on his screen. I'm looking at what I'm seeing on my screen. These don't match at all. He's on a Mac, I'm on a Windows, okay? So 20 years later, okay, we're still dealing with the Mac
and
Windows issue, okay, in there, on it. The other one that, since I presided over the decline, okay, from 05 to now, okay, one of the things that I did not know university level stuff, okay? So when we would write a module, if we didn't have somebody like Tony, they could go to the appropriate channels down here to get the course approved, okay? You know, I had no idea how you might do that. I had no experience with grant writing. So really the best that I could ever do would be to take something we already had and see to it that we kept it up to date, okay?
Yeah.
And kept it going. It was not really functional for me to try to originate something else and get it approved as a university for university credit in there. And as we
There was a fair amount of resistance in our department, really, because the curriculum committee got involved, and particularly the graduate curriculum committee, because they recognized that some of the things we were giving credit for were below what they regarded as graduate mathematics. And so that was a problem.
I'll explain that one, because on the modules, one of the early ones we had was using the internet. Well, we couldn't teach mathematics over the internet until we taught internet. So we were giving math credit for a course that was about using the internet.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I didn't have much math in it, okay, with it. Then we had Scott and Trish Gray, JavaScript, HTML.
Yeah.
I am so glad, okay, that I took the HTML course. That's the only way I would have known how to update web pages, okay, along the way, okay, in there too. So, I mean, these were valuable courses for a teacher out in the field, okay, even though they weren't math content, but they were important for teaching math. Now, I came out of a district, I think the professional development shop within that our district would hire one person to come in each year on Institute Day and do professional development for all 50 teachers. So they would pick a topic that we could all do. Well, that topic's not going to be math, okay?
Yeah.
The 1 year, I think it would have been 1 to 2 years ahead, we had a speaker come in, and it was on creativity, okay? And so one of the things she had us do was to make a poltergeist, okay? The women would dump out their purses, okay? The men would find all the stuff in their billfold that was obsolete, and you would make a poltergeist out of it, okay? Now this really helped in my math classroom, you know, with it. So when I saw these courses come online, okay, where they actually could make a difference, I was pretty excited and pretty happy to work with this. Another spin-off for me is that by working with people like Tony and Deborah and Jerry down here, I made other connections. Tony mentioned John Dawsey. Well, it turns out John Dawsey was the evaluator for a program at the University of Northern Iowa that does workshops on our military bases around the world. And because of his knowing what was happening at the U of I, he had told the person in charge of that at the University of Northern Iowa, you ought to go to Champaign, okay, and see what they're doing over the internet. And it was summer, okay, and so I came down and did the tour, and the gentleman from leading the program at Iowa described what they did. He said, we bring the teachers back for a week in the summer in Iowa, there are about 80 of them, and then during the year we go out and visit as many of them as we can in their schools. And I think I was in Los Angeles at a NEA convention, and I pick up my email and he says, we have a workshop next week, would you be interested in presenting? And I said yes, and so I worked as fast as I could to put together a presentation. I go over to Iowa on a Tuesday. On Thursday, I'm sitting around a table, okay, with teachers from Japan, one other person from our group. We're figuring out what order we're going to visit these teachers in Japan, okay? So out of this, I ended up with 3 trips to Japan, 3 trips to Germany, okay? I've been proofreading both calculus and physics for Monterey Institute. Had I not answered his question, yes, okay, in 1997, then I'd have missed all of that in there. I'm going to try to get this to come over to another item I want to try and show if I have it in here correct. I think you'll enjoy what there was. Okay, I just have to back it up. Okay, I need to go to 28. Come on.
Of the module, but basically, of the module, it started with the local coordinators.
Okay, I'm going to go back. I got to be fair about this.
So, for you, it seems like there's a lot of responsibility that a coordinator at a high school undertakes in being a part of the NetMath Illinois. How did you receive training, or how did you get information from the university about what your role would be?
Well, when the first summer that we were signed up, I was invited to a 2-day workshop on campus at the University of Illinois, and we would bring our own computers down. They were going to install software and show us those things that we needed to do as a mentor, as a coordinator. When I got here, I found out that they also had received a grant to do staff development for the mathematics instruction for high school teachers across the state in a program that's called MathTeacherLink. And that grant provided for putting various modules on the internet to teach high school teachers how to use calculus and Mathematica themselves. One of the modules was how to use Mathematica with your regular high school classes, and one of the modules was on how to use the internet. And by going back home and doing that on my own time over the internet from home in the summer, I was in pretty good shape by the time I had my 2 students started in the fall.
Okay, great, thank you. This is a perfect transition to our next presenter, Professor Tony Peressini, who's going to explain a little bit more about what we call the MathTeacherLink. Tony, can you tell us a little bit about this program?
Thank you, and I'd be happy to. MathTeacherLink, as Tom indicated, is a website that we have for teachers, and it bears a special relationship to the distance program by the way it started. It really started with local coordinators like Tom and others who were working with the distance program. Now we really are thinking of it in terms of a facility for math teachers at all grade levels from 9 to 14 in mathematics. I also want to point out that a partner in this with me is Deborah Woods, who's doing double duty as director of the distance program, and also works very hard with me on MathTeacherLink. But let me say a little bit about, first of all, about what MathTeacherLink really is, and then a bit about how it connects with the distance education program. Very briefly, MathTeacherLink is a website for high school and
I think we
college,
probably
math
most of what
Yeah.
follows the next 6 or 7 minutes is pretty much what Tony talked about.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and
Sure.
pause it, and that way if you want to go
work.
with questions or
Call
things,
course modules.
discuss, you're fine to do that, okay? But I wanted to put up something from 1997,
Yeah.
since I still had it in the house when I went looking
Yeah.
this last week.
Can you talk about the networking, how that played out? Was it networking among teachers? How much of that happened?
Well, I think it did, and particularly when you had a regional workshop, very often you had people who were just a few miles from one another, and so networking was a natural thing to do. And typically we had people at different, I think the most significant thing is you had people at very different technology levels, and some people had trouble with every module because they just couldn't run the things, and other people who picked it up right away. So it's one of those situations where you get, when students can help other students understand something, they usually understand it better themselves, and of course it keeps the other guy from falling by the wayside. Anything else? Okay.
More about the impact of this program.
Pardon?
You know, about the impact of the program.
I didn't quite.
About the impact?
Oh, of the program. Well, I think the fact that when we were building all of these, it was an interesting thing to do, and I think professional development is waxed and waned, and the sources of funding for that kind of thing wax and wane. But it's still something that you even encounter in your own home very often. That you have a young person explain to you what you're trying to understand on the internet. That they're much better at it. The young people are much better than I ever was. So it's had that kind of, and I just think the fact that we got a little over 1,000 people to complete a module, and that they even appeared to come back reasonably well and did more than one sometimes, and so it was a good thing, I think.
So I can speak a little bit to the professional development, because when the Nctm Standards first came out in '89, professional development was so big, you know, and then the Eisenhower money came along, and every district got Eisenhower money, you know, federal grant, and it had to be spent on math and science professional development.
Yeah.
And then that went away. In 2000, that went away.
Yeah.
And so a lot of teachers just stopped their math professional development.
Yeah.
And teachers, especially teachers like in small rural districts who aren't being paid all that well to begin with,
Yeah.
and then they don't have the ability to get money to help them, you know, get professional development. So I think that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
And then the PDUs came up, professional development
Yes.
units, and I don't know if you ever got.
We did some of that for a while. You could get professional development credit, even it wasn't academic credit, but you could get it's sort of credit for your job and maybe for a salary increase in your local
and then
district.
they took that away.
Yes.
You know, so
Yeah.
when you talk about the waxing and the waning of professional development for teachers, especially math teachers, and for math teachers it hasn't come back.
Yeah.
Now it's all differentiated instruction and, you know, response to intervention and all of the new things that teachers have to get professional development in.
Yeah.
So it's sad, but that's
Yes, it
true.
is.
One of the problems we had at Central, and Kathleen and I worked on this, I don't know if you remember Chris, we were doing professional development through the university back to you guys and trying to get them to come in the evenings.
Yes.
And we couldn't get them to come in the evening because if it isn't between 8 and 4 in the day,
Yes.
and they weren't being paid, even when we had the workshop set up, and we did a bunch of those,
Yeah.
we couldn't get them to come in.
Yeah.
And I don't think anything has changed today. It's kind of like, it's probably even worse from what I'm picking up. Unless it's on my time, on your dollar, I'm not there.
Well, the whole concept of professional development, as I thought of it, is gone.
Yeah.
Because now the district tells you what your professional development is and what you have to
They
go
do.
to. And unless it has something to do with the series of textbooks that the math department adopted, it will not be math related.
Yeah.
So it's professional development is not what it used to be.
That's right. That's right.
And that's sad.
Yes, it is.
The sources of funding have declined.
Yeah.
Like the Eisenhower dollars, but also the way in which professional development, we've seen different incentives for a long time, or I think after No Child Left Behind, I felt that there was a significant incentive for teachers, particularly math teachers, to get math department credit. That is, College of Ed credit, for example, was deprecated in favor of math department credit.
Yeah.
So something like MathTeacherLink, like if I can learn Sketchpad and get math credit, that really
helps them.
had a push in the days of No Child Left Behind. The way it seems to be happening now is that professional development is kind of withdrawn into the existing school system. Maybe, you know, that it's kind of become the responsibility of the school to provide PD for its teachers.
Right.
Maybe a regional office, but
Yeah, and that's most of that emphasis has gone away from math too. I mean, that is the professional development may be about, you know, discipline problems in your classroom or whatever. Yeah, the content.
The freedom of the teacher to choose what to do, so
Yeah.
they're kind of part of it. Even if you had a professional development, you would not be able to use it in your class or very little of it in your class. And the freedom to choose what you do.
more
how you
highly
do it.
structured.
How do we reinstate that? I'm just, Kathleen, I remember we'd be sitting there, any break that she had out of the classroom, she's doing all this stuff, and you're working on that natural teacher thing.
Yeah.
But how do we get that back reinstilled? Because in our old group, and I mean, two of us are exactly,
Yeah.
our birthdays just days apart.
Yeah.
But how do you get that reinstated?
Yeah.
Back to the teachers, where it's inbred to the individual who's gonna do this on their own time, because during the class day, there is not enough time
That's
to
right.
do it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, the changing conditions are, I mean, the conditions always change, but I mean, reacting to them in the right way and so on is getting more and more difficult because
Well, and I'm still doing that.
I
mean,
know,
if
it doesn't surprise me at all, Kathleen.
if something new comes out and I want to learn it, but now the opportunities for me to learn things, I can go online and Google, and there is
Yeah.
somebody out there with a little YouTube video that is going to get me started, and then from there, they're going to send me to other places.
Sure.
So, I mean, even today, let's say if I were still in the classroom and I was looking to bring something new into, well, Desmos, let's say, how long has Desmos been out there? 5 or 6 years? You know, so when I saw Desmos, I don't know if something came up and it said Desmos, and I was like, well, I'm going to learn Desmos. And I had no difficulty teaching myself with what was available, you know, just free and open on the web.
Mhm.
So I think that may also have contributed to some of this, because you can find it and it's there tonight when you need it, and you can, you know, learn what you need tonight and then use it in your classroom
Mhm.
tomorrow, that sort of thing. I don't know, the technology changes so quickly.
yes, it is.
The neat thing we had was when I got with you guys, was an incredible interaction between
Yes,
all of us in the
yes,
academy
yes.
and outside of our academy, because
Yeah.
we were a self-contained unit within Central High School.
Yes.
Working with kids, and some kids, I find out some of the kids we had gone on to incredible
Yeah,
success.
yeah, they have. Yeah, they have. And most of them, surprisingly enough, when you run into a parent, you know, like a taste of champagne or
Yeah.
something, and they, oh, Mrs. Smith, they always recognize the bun on the back
Yeah.
of the head. And the kids are in technology.
Yes.
The vast majority of them actually did go into
It's
technology.
technology,
and that
yeah,
was their focus.
yeah.
We got a pair of twins we had, I just found out the other day because I ran into their family. One is now a musician, and another one is now a highly accomplished engineer. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that those things, those innovations, and the impetus behind them, which was for children and at the local level and communities at the local level, never generated the data that policymakers were looking for to say this is what we scale. So that my take on the evolution of things like No Child Left Behind, and now the Race to the Top, and all of the disempowering of teachers has come from the desire of policymakers to look at numbers, not stories of success,
Right.
not the passion of kids or
Yeah.
the collaboration of teachers, but to say, show me the numbers that say MathTeacherLink is cost-effective way to increase student performance on the ACT or something like
Yeah.
that. And we've repeatedly been unable to do that, and we've been unpersuasive in saying that those aren't the right measures. So we've ended up in a kind of helpless situation where we're being dictated to by
Yeah.
legislative mandates that have taken professional development into something that isn't professional.
Yes.
Funny you should mention this,
Yeah.
because have you looked at Jerry Becker's emails to us today.
Oh, not today.
Okay,
But
there's
I'm
a
reading
new
them all
book
the
out.
time, yeah.
There's a new book out that's exactly about that. What went wrong with the reforms and what went right. And I have to get a copy of the book, but one of the main things is that data does not teach us anything. And that why do we continue to say that gathering data is somehow or other going to improve instruction? Skinner said that you cannot improve instruction with data. And so but it's a new book. Who's going to read the book? Me. Who
What did you
decides
think went right?
the focus on the fact that you cannot just look at your top students. The fact that we are looking at everything.
Disaggregating data, it's a
Right.
great shame for us that we didn't do that before.
And the fact that we have clear evidence that the vast majority of children who do not perform well in the classroom have terrible home lives.
Bingo.
Yeah.
But that is,
I mean, we hadn't, yeah.
but we never talked about it because we didn't look at those kids.
We had to work with those kids because that's ones we had in the academy, and it was incredibly successful, but again, when they killed it, the data wasn't there.
Right, the success was in stories, and those were not persuasive to people
Yeah.
who are making policy at state and national levels. They want to know what is the most cost-effective way, or what works. The NCLB created something called the What Works Clearinghouse, right? As far as I know, I don't know anybody who actually goes to it, but I'm sure some do. But it was based on that data-driven idea that if you could do solid studies on what works and what doesn't, we're going to be able to say, well, this curriculum works, that curriculum doesn't. I don't know if we know that.
You adjust your curriculum based on the student needs, what you're teaching on a continuous basis.
There are simply too many factors in
Yes.
human interaction
Yes.
to be able to
Make sense of the data. even
do
with
this
the
in a
data.
purely behavioristic way.
Yeah.
But
Lies, Dan, lies, and statistics.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so what's to be our next step?
Going back to TeacherLink, because I don't like the fact that you guys think of this as a decline, because there was a period where people like myself
Yeah.
had got invaluable information from what you offered me, and I did in fact spread that information.
Yeah.
So, and I know teachers who are in the classroom now using stuff that I learned from
Yeah.
MathTeacherLink, and they're not in decline.
Yeah. No, it's
They're going
I
strong.
was referring to enrollments.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But
And were MathTeacherLink modules always math credit?
yeah.
Math
Yes.
department credit?
Yeah.
I think that would be a big draw, and would continue to be if they could be, but they're not math credit. Well,
Yeah.
they're not being offered anymore. Is that correct?
Yeah. That's right.
Some of that is due to my age, okay, and I'm also now 15 years out of the classroom where I hear the discussions, so I'm a little bit reluctant to do too much recommending to somebody on the final project. This is what you ought to be working on. Okay, I'm starting to feel disassociated from the high school setting.
So have you ever thought about moving to another institution? Like offering credit through EIU or, another
That's
university
another
system?
possibility. EIU would be
Yeah, they'd
a
be-
good choice if we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But
Their math department would offer math credit for,
I think they would. For a long time, we had. You may remember Di Pietro was he was the department head when I was there, and we worked with them pretty well, and so that was good. And so it's all these things end up in a way being personal to a particular situation you're in, and you can't. They have no lasting value beyond that relationship. Our first work at Parkland, Dale Ewan was the head of at that time the curriculum, and I believe he was what they referred to as the director of their distance programs, and we got together very early on all this, and he wanted to get some of the C&M courses into Parkland and so on, and I think that's what drove it for a while. But it all boils down to people and relationships.
C&M isn't being offered through NetMath, it's being offered, but it's not being offered as a course option any longer in undergraduate.
Yeah.
Several years, so soon after Jerry died.
So what percent of engineering students now are taking the CMI on NetMath as opposed to taking a classroom? Do you have any data on that? Because didn't you used to have the largest percentage of CMI students were in engineering?
Actually, not that much. We never
No?
got much more than 5%
Oh,
on campus.
okay.
I mean, most of NetMath's students are not field life students.
Right, but CMI was never, on campus was never more than 5% engineering?
But,
Huh. I don't know why I thought it was higher than that.
well, it was still a relatively small program. I mean,
Yeah.
the class sizes were small. We weren't teaching in the big cattle call rooms with 400 students.
Yeah.
We had relatively, the largest class, senior class I ever taught, and this was wildly beyond the room capacity, was 80 students.
And what was the major for most of them, would you say?
Oh, engineers.
Oh, that's what I was
Yeah, but I mean,
saying.
You had 80 in engineering class?
I had 80 engineers in that class, yeah. Linear algebra.
Yeah, so my question was, have they now started taking it through NetMath rather than taking it on
Oh, I
campus?
misunderstood your question, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The answer's still the same, though.
No, so what are those engineering students now taking on campus?
They're taking the regular math courses.
Regular calculus, okay.
Yeah. I mean, for the last 2 summers, and this is relatively recent, for the last 2 summers, we've taught term courses. Regular net math is rolling enrollment, so basically a student can enroll at any time, and it's flexibly paced within a 16-week term. But for the past 2 summers, we've actually taught the summer math courses, and that gets those are all U of I students.
Mm-hmm.
So that 5% I was talking about is actually flipped up a little bit. We are one of the main options during the summer now, and that looks like it's going to be continuing. But until we sort of break the barrier and get into the fall spring terms, which there are frightening hurdles
Yes.
that will come for that to happen. Summer budgets are, of course, separate from the academic year budgets. And math professors don't typically want to teach in the summer, so there's not competition. We're not cannibalizing anybody's livelihood.
Yeah.
So breaking into the fall and spring is not on my radar anytime soon. But during the summer, this past summer, we taught 226 students spread across all of our courses. Vast majority of those are engineering or technical fields.
Well, that's because it's useful mathematics when they do it on NetMath.
Yeah.
Strange, yeah.
So there's something that I want to ask Tony about. MTL started in 97-ish?
Yes.
But you go back farther than that.
Oh, yeah.
You, and I don't know if it's well appreciated, but Tony was the first administrator of the Distance Education Project.
Yeah.
That started in 90.
Oh, that probably 90. I thought it was around 1995 or 94. I don't know, but
Sandy
Deborah
Dawson, was that
Woods-
Sandy Dawson?
Sandy Dawson was involved,
But
and
Deborah Woods came to the university in 1993 and took over DEP, so DEP was running before 93.
yeah.
And I was a grad student then, and I don't know if you remember, but I
Oh,
actually helped you.
I
Field
do.
discs back and forth.
Yes,
with the
that's
mail.
right. That's right.
And so that predated, and I graduated in 95, so that was, I think you go back a little bit farther
Well,
than you give yourself credit for.
And that's Carol Castellon too, right?
Yeah, she was
Shirley
involved.
Castellon, Shirley Treadway.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I was in there with all that.
But I
I don't
remember
know.
when I actually went to like Armstrong High School and
Yeah.
install computers, install Mathematica, and hook the internet up to their computers. That's
Yeah.
way back. So my point being, I think Tony deserves even more credit because he
Well,
founded what became NetMath.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And actually, NetMath is, among the distance education, you guys are probably the most venerable existing distance education project on campus.
10 years ago, some publication called us the granddaddies.
Granddaddy, that's right.
That's 10 years ago.
10 years.
So we're straight.
So MOOCs have come and gone, that math is still
It's here to stay. Well, and the thing that I like most about it is that it was designed not for the wealthiest, but for the poorest schools, so that they could have what the wealthy schools, schools that did not have a calculus teacher could have calculus through this program. I always thought that was so worthy. Yeah.
But on the just on the reason we could do that is because you could get funding for that at that point. So it kind of takes away a little of the,
We keep coming back to that. Yeah, are people willing to pay for
yeah,
in the way of education and in the way of professional development?
yeah,
And it feels like less and less.
yeah.
Certainly at the
Well,
state level.
we still provide educational opportunities for those students.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is still part of the mission.
Yeah, well, we have a partner high school program, which is,
Yeah, that's,
But most of the schools are the Chicago suburban schools.
Already
Yeah.
had Cal KB, okay.
Yeah.
that's mostly true.
Yeah.
But we have recognized that, and we're actually making pushes to get back to our roots, which is,
But I guess it comes back to the fundamental question, and go back to our experience, is we paid for that out of our own pocket.
Yes.
We did this stuff by our own. We held the workshops. Like, it's great that Jack is getting a piece out of his fund, but we did all this on our own. How do we get back to that? Because they're in the school budget today and the tax budget is going, there's not enough money. There's not enough time in the day to get it all done. But how do we get that back reinstated
yeah.
to where the teachers there are willing to spend that extra time or get together on the weekend or spend that extra dollar? I mean,
They
it
have to
costs-
have the energy and the expectation. In the 80s, a statistic I saw was the modal year of the population of teachers in terms of their experience. Their modal number of years of experience was 14. Today, the modal number of years of experience is 1.
Yeah.
So, 1, yes. So you're going to have more new teachers than any other kind of teachers. And that, I think, testifies to the stress that being a school teacher today is. They're not.
Well, they're more than good, they have to be everything under the sun.
What do you mean?
The teacher has to be everything under the sun.
Well, and I think their autonomy, I think that's the biggest loss, is what I'm seeing, is that teachers don't feel the autonomy and therefore the professionalism that goes with that autonomy, my classroom is my space. Therefore I have colleagues with whom to work and to improve my craft to get better and better at it. If instead I have a script that I am to read and a set of protocols that I am to enforce, the autonomy is gone, and therefore my desire my feeling as a professional will be diminished.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I'm unable, regardless of what I'm being paid, right? If I'm following a script or being told that this is what I have to do and how my class has to be, then I
There was
think
a
the
script course
professionalism
in the end of the 70s, early, where they're doing a script, because I know when I got in the grad school at U of I in the early 80s, all of a sudden we discarded that script thing because that self-paced script thing wasn't working to where you get all this total interactive dynamic teaching again. That's what happened in the academy. And so now all of a sudden it's, coming back into a loop again for what that didn't work and was thrown away. It's now coming back as an idea to use.
Yeah. I'm not sure it's simply a pendulum swing though. I think that the impending teacher shortage is going to be
It's
incredible. Unprecedented.
Everybody is ignoring it, and yet it is real. Who's here from education? The numbers in education are like, the bottom has fallen out of them.
Yes.
Nobody wants to be a teacher.
Yeah.
The 199 class that Jana does here in this room, which used to have 30 or so math majors, or intending math majors, freshmen, sophomores. think we have 4 this semester, 4 kids this semester.
Well, when Adam Petzel came, they hired Adam Petzel into the College of Education because they had 40 kids wanting to come into the secondary math program. And that was maybe 6 years ago.
Yeah.
This year they had 12.
Ah.
12. That's all that wanted to come in.
12?
12. And we used to cap it at 40 6 years ago. Cap it at 40, now we have 12. And it's like, where is this in the papers? It's not there. You know, because of course Teach for America is going to step in, or we're going to, we're going to find these people. They're going to leave engineering and come and teach math in the classroom. I don't think so. It's not something that anybody wants to do. It's hard work, and it's being made harder by, all of the things that we've discussed.
Yes, yes.
So
we live in interesting times,
Yeah.
as the curse goes.
The consequence is the employability of the student once they get out in the field, whether they're coming out of high school direct or they're coming out of college. Because my son's a blind engineer and he's hiring engineers out of school right here at the U of I.
Sure.
And if they haven't got their computer or their calculator, they're friggin' lost.
Thank you guys so much
Yeah.
for coming.
Very welcome.
Thank you for teaching us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.